being here. This is called the LSAT is easy. The reason why it's called the LSAT is easy is because the LSAT is easy. I really believe that. I'm a no bullshit kind of a guy, and I've made a career out of helping people understand how easy this test can actually be. So that's what we're going to talk about today. There's an agenda in front of us. I should introduce, I have two helpers here with me. Abigail's here from LSAT Demon. Haley's here from LSAT Demon. Hello, team. Abigail and Haley are both available if you want to send them private messages to ask them questions about LSAT Demon or to ask them questions about the LSAT or law school admissions. They can both help you out if you want to have background conversations. There's a public chat that's open in the Zoom client. If you want to put questions, comments into the public Zoom chat, that's totally fine as well. Under reactions, you can use the raise hand feature. It looks like that. If you raise your hand, I will eventually get around to calling on you. And hopefully we can have a interactive sort of a session today. It's a 1 hour class at 8:30 Eastern, 5:30 Pacific. I have my normal Tuesday night class, so I do have to keep this one to no more than an hour, and I'll have to leave and go teach that class. But for now, we have this agenda in front of us on the syllabus, and I want to start by, I really want to ask you guys, because I want to know, what is it that, why do you think the LSAT's hard? What is it? What have you heard about the LSAT that confuses you?
I would say the logic games are like the hardest for me. Just
Logic
like
games.
yeah,
Is that like a common thing here in the room? Logic games, is that where you're struggling? Looking like maybe a third of you are struggling with the logic games. Sure, okay. Anybody else? Is it Jackie?
Yeah, I struggle with the logical reasoning, especially when you have those questions with like 2 or 3, or even, I've even seen 4 negatives in the same stimulus, and I'm trying to figure out why so many negatives. Why don't you just say it straightforward instead of this negates this, which then negates that, and then that negates that? And it's like, it just gets really confusing.
Sure. So double, triple, quadruple negatives in the logical reasoning. Some people have said that logic games are confusing. Some people have said that logical reasoning is confusing. I see a whole bunch of votes for reading comprehension in the chat. Okay, we can get into all of those areas. Jesse.
I wanted your opinion on how to get through all of the questions. Right now, my problem is not having enough time. I'm doing the 35-minute practice sections and tests, and it's hard to get through the questions for me.
Okay, so speed, I imagine that that's something that people have in common, probably, that you guys are struggling to finish all of that content in the 35 minutes. All right, that's a thing that we can talk about. Sarah?
So I used to teach English in Korea, and I actually learned to study from them because of their methods and how they would teach their kids. And I feel like I'm using a lot of those methods while studying for the LSATs and to figure it out. And you guys actually use a lot of those too, a lot of critical thinking and stuff. And I want to know more of those clues. Like you guys would say, if you see this word thus and things like very key things, I think that I need to focus on that more. It's going to help me eliminate easier. That's what I need to focus on.
Okay. When you say you guys, do you mean us or do you mean LSAT teachers generally?
No, like you and the other guy that I see explanations from.
Ben.
Yes.
You're talking about Ben Olson, yeah. Ben and I, if you don't know me or if you don't know Ben, we do a weekly podcast called Thinking LSAT. We do a podcast that comes out like 5 days a week. That's called LSAT Demon Daily. We're on YouTube. We're everywhere that you get podcasts or video content. You should check all that stuff out. I guess I'll respond to that one directly. we probably focus on that kind of stuff, Sarah, a lot less than any other LSAT teacher that you might find. We're not about gimmicks and strategies and like special arcane knowledge. We're much more about just reading carefully and understanding what it says. And it's, you know, every word matters, but we're not like going in there looking for keywords. We're going in there looking for comprehension of the whole thing. And so it's probably a lot less about that trigger language than you might think. Stick with us for a while. I think your perspective might shift on that a little bit. Sarah M.
Hi. For me, the test is easy, and that's like kind of your motto, like the test is easy, but I feel like I have a hard time slowing down. And then, sorry, I'm in the car if you heard the cop sirens. And I just need to like not let the anxiety get to me, because I feel like I speed up on questions that I don't actually understand. And so that's kind of the struggle that I'm trying to get over right now.
Gotcha. Okay, cool. Anybody else have big picture stuff, things that they're nervous about? That Andrew?
Yeah, so I just had to think about like the more difficult logic games. I'll be able to complete them on my own in like 16 minutes and get usually like, let's say all of them or maybe one wrong,
Sure.
but I can't get it down to where I can get it around like 7-8 minutes, like obviously the easier ones. So I don't know how to time manage myself for these harder ones.
Sure, I can answer that one. Your problem is that you're not good enough at the easy ones. Your problem isn't those hard ones. Your problem is that you're doing an easy game in 8 or 9 minutes when you might have been able to do that game in 3 or 4 minutes. You got to get to the point where you're just going to hit home runs on the real easy stuff. Generally speaking, this goes for all of y'all, and it goes for all sections. You need to get better at the easy stuff. Okay, the LSAT is easy. The bulk of your points are going to come from the easiest LR questions, the easiest logic games, the easiest reading comprehension. And you have to slow down. You have to focus on accuracy. You have to get paid for the work that you're doing. You have to be calm, careful, accurate. And if you can train yourself to do that, you're going to accidentally start going faster, but with perfect accuracy, instead of doing what you're doing now, which is struggling to go fast with shitty accuracy. And so you're not really understanding what you're reading. You're not really understanding what you're doing. You're not even understanding what they're asking you, to be honest. For every question you miss, you're making at least 2 mistakes. You're picking a wrong answer, and you're failing to pick the right answer, which is right there in your face. So you're really not understanding what you're doing. It might feel like you kind of are, but I'm here to tell you that you're just not. You're picking answers that just literally don't answer the question. And the right answer, which does answer the question, is right there on the page. It's because you're so obsessed with speed. The #1 error that all LSAT students make at all levels on all sections of the test, the #1 error that you're making is that you're just trying to go 5% or 10% faster than you're capable of actually going. And what you're doing is hey, it's like you're trying to eat a sandwich 10% faster than your mouth and throat are capable of digesting, or, of chewing and swallowing that sandwich. And what's going to happen? You're going to choke on it. And that's what you guys are doing. You're biting off more than you can chew. And that's why you're slow. I hope you understand. This is the fundamental paradox of the LSAT, is that you try to go fast, and that's what makes you slow. You overload the system. You don't really understand what you're doing. You just don't see how easy it actually is. And the #1 thing that you can do to really transform your performance on the LSAT, again, this applies to logic games, it applies to logical reasoning, it applies to reading comprehension. If you're going to have transformative improvement on the LSAT, you must slow down and start understanding so that you can start to see how easy it really is. You have to stop making casual mistakes. You have to stop misreading things. And you misread one little bit of the argument, and then they're asking you to strengthen the argument, but you don't even know what argument you're trying to strengthen. Or you misread one of the rules on the games. There was a rule that you failed to see, or there was a rule that you misinterpreted. And now you're trying to make inferences, you're trying to make a diagram, you're trying to put the pieces of the puzzle together, and you're trying to do it fast, but you've already lost the battle because you misread something at the very beginning of the whole exercise. And that foundational error is going to cost you a ton of time. It's going to cost you missed questions. It's going to stress you out. It's going to lead to cascade failures down the road. And you could have avoided all of that by just calming down. I know it's easier said than done sometimes, but you're not going to be successful. Okay. If you don't find the ability to just slow down, breathe a little bit, read it more carefully, and then realize that you're playing a much easier game than you thought you were playing in the first place. I forget who it was that was bringing up that quadruple negative earlier. Imagine, it was Jackie. Thank you, Jackie. Imagine if, maybe it was only a triple negative, but you thought it was a quadruple negative. That's probably the case because quadruple negatives are pretty rare. Or maybe it was a quadruple negative, but you only thought it was a triple negative. Well, in either case, you just didn't do the work of a lawyer. You didn't slow down. You didn't sort it out. You don't have any idea what you're really doing. And if you don't digest that, if you don't really wrangle with it like a lawyer and figure out what it says, lots of times, right, if it really is a quadruple negative, it's probably just a positive statement with 4 negatives in it that balance each other out, right? But you've got to take the time to eliminate that and figure out, translate it into something that a normal person can understand. You got to take the lawyer shit and turn it into normal person shit. Then you can really understand it. And then it's like, oh, wait, so the answer is B. And I'm sitting there going, yeah, it's B. And there's no way in hell you could pick A or C or D or E. None of them make any sense. It's obviously B. Once you understand what the passage says and what the question is asking you, the answers become obvious and the wrong answers look terrible. But you're never going to see how easy the test is if you continue to race the clock. That's all-purpose advice for all levels and all sections of the test. Bella, you've had a hand up for a while. What can I help you with?
One thing I feel like I keep on getting stuck on, I was in your class with the Weekend Warriors and you recommended with the logic games to go through the lessons, I believe it was. So I went through all the lessons throughout the week and I've been drilling every single day while alternating between logic, reasoning, and reading comp.
Good.
But my issue I'm having is I went to last night's class on logic game foundations and I just was unsure of when to do the worlds and stuff. But the second, obviously one of the tutors explain it, I'm oh yeah, that makes 100% sense. I can go on from there. But I feel when it comes to myself doing drilling and I can get a similar question, I wouldn't even know where to begin. And it keeps on that's what I keep on struggling with. And it's hard to pass no matter how much I practice with drilling.
No matter how much you practice?
How hard I practice, I guess.
Well, let me ask you this. How much have you practiced the logic games?
Well, I try to do 4 games a day, on and off, when it comes to drilling. And then I went to the class. So I do things like that.
For how long have you been doing 4 games a day?
For the whole week. All
whole week.
And last week.
4 games a day for a whole week?
I don't know. I just can't comprehend it. It's just hard just because when it comes to the setup, I just don't know how to properly do it. And then I'm stuck in thinking oh, should I do a world? Maybe I shouldn't really do a world in this case. Maybe my world's seems wrong. I don't know.
I understand. I understand. I know exactly your problem, which is just that you haven't been at this long enough, Bella. There are 100 practice tests available in the history of the law school admission test. We have roughly 100 practice tests that we can work with. And on each practice test, there are 4 logic games. Roughly speaking, 100 tests, 4 games, roughly 400 logic games. And so that means that, you know, if you started today and you mastered 1 logic game, and you did that tomorrow and the next day and the next day, it'd be a little bit over a year from now, and you would complete the cycle having mastered all of the logic games that are available to master. Now, if you're doing it at a little bit faster pace, like Bella, if you're doing 4 games per day, 1 section of games per day, if you're diligently doing that every single day, then yeah, I'll see you in 3 months or a little over 3 months. And then you will have done all of the available practice that there is to do on the logic games. I'm not telling you that you necessarily need to do all 400 of those games. I'm not telling you that you necessarily need to do all 100 of those practice tests, but they are available for you. And importantly, they are available for all of your competitors. They don't make the LSAT naturally something that people just roll out of bed and score 175 on, because if they did, then there would be no differentiation between your scores, and the LSAT would be worthless for figuring out who's got it and who doesn't got it for law school. So they have to make it a challenge. I'm not willing to say that it's hard. I am just telling you that it is a challenge, in the same way that Mario Kart is a challenge. You do enough of that and you're going to get insanely good at it. And Bella, you just need to stick with it. If you've done 4 games a day for a week, okay, great. Let's do that for a month. Let's do that for a couple months. And eventually you're going to realize that the logic games, every one of them is unique in a trivial sense, but they're basically the same type of thing over and over and over. And it's a unique kind of a thing. Those puzzles don't really live anywhere outside of the LSAT. But on the LSAT, they have changed very slowly over time, and they have repeated themselves in meaningful ways. And all you really have to do is just put in the volume, lots and lots and lots of practice. Forlesia in the chat says, how do you master logic games if you're unsure of how to set up the games? And I think video is the very best way to learn logic games. I would encourage you to just give it your best shot. When you're stuck, start watching a video, watch about 30 seconds of it, just enough to get unstuck, okay? Just get like the first step in a setup to where you feel, oh, I see what's going on. Okay, hit pause. Work on it on your own for a while. When you get stuck again, hit unpause, and then just keep doing that. I would also encourage you to watch another video in the LSAT Demon. You guys all have at least a LSAT Demon free account, so you can check out all of our various explanations in the Demon. We have multiple video explanations for every logic game in the history of logic games. And, you know, like here, let me just show you real quick. The game that was on the syllabus for tonight is this one right here. And here's the game. And then over here, we have a video from Ben. We have a video from me. We have another video from Ben. We have another video from me. Oh, and then we have our super sweet Logic Games graph paper, which you can print out and use for your setups. We find that graph paper is a little bit better than regular paper. But anyway, we have all these resources. And so what I would encourage you to do is to just watch a little bit of a video, hit pause, work on it on your own, go back and forth, check out a couple different videos. You'll realize that one setup, there's various different solutions to any one logic game. So I would encourage you to consider different approaches to the same game. And it's just kind of one step at a time. You know, all you can control right now is mastering whatever game is in front of you, right? You can't do all 4 games in the section at once. You can do 1 game. And so you master that game, you make sure you feel confident. I see how we could have gotten to a correct answer for each one of these questions. Okay, cool. Go master another game, and then go master another game. And then eventually, maybe you master all 400 of the games. By the time you get to even halfway, you will be vastly better at the logic games than you are now. I promise you. You can't do 200 games without improving like wildly. Mariana.
Thanks. One question I do have, is that a better strategy of watching the video to get unstuck versus forcing yourself through the entire game and then going back and seeing the pieces that you've missed in terms of getting better? Or is it 6 on one, half dozen on the other?
Yeah, I don't know. It depends. I mean, if, you know, like, I will promise you that one of the reasons why the LSAT is easy is that on the games especially, they're giving you 100% of the information that you need to answer every single one of those questions with complete certainty, okay? If it was like some weird, you know, Saw type of a situation where it was like, you can't miss any of the questions or else I'm gonna cut off your arm, you know, like if it was that type of situation, you would take your time with it. You would be really careful and you would figure that shit out. I know you would figure it out. Like you would shit your pants, but you would also figure it out. And ultimately you would like solve the questions because they've given you all the information that's required. And so, you know, if you can force yourself through it, when the questions don't make sense, you know, like if you think that there are 2 good answers to a question on logic games, you're wrong. If you think that there are 0 good answers to a question on logic games, you're wrong. There is 1 right answer and 4 wrong answers for every question, for every logic game in history. And it's just right there on the page, but you have to solve it. So you've got to get to that point where you're like, oh boy, I'm in trouble here because I feel like there's 2 good answers, or I'm in trouble here because there's 0 good answers. Well, okay, you've misread something. You've failed to make a connection that you could have made. There's a possible solution that you've neglected. You've made some errors along the way and you should figure that out. And if you can figure it out yourself, I do think that that's better. On the other hand, if you've been there for 45 minutes and you're like getting super frustrated, banging your head against the wall, well, why not just watch a video and get yourself unstuck? I mean, the help is there for a reason. So, you know, I really don't want you to be totally passive where you just sit back and watch the videos and you think you understand it, but you could never do it yourself. That's not good. But attempt it on your own. When you're stuck, you're stuck. Watch some video, get yourself unstuck, and then figure out the rest of it. Jackie.
I have a question on the logical reasoning. Is there a way to filter out the difficulty level for those questions? Like you can filter out on the logical games, the ordering, the grouping, and then the hybrid, and master each game one at a time. Is there a way on LSAT Demon to filter out on the logical reasoning? Like if I just want to do the easiest problems first, master the easiest ones, and then move up to the next?
Yes.
Okay, how do I do that?
Yes, and you shouldn't.
Oh. Okay.
So the core of the LSAT Demon is the drilling feature. And I'm going to share my screen again here to just show you how the drilling works. So over here on the dashboard, on the navigation and the dashboard, you just go to drill. That's what this page is. And if you go into these settings here, then you can start doing things like ruling out different question types. I would just not recommend that you even do that. I think you should just leave it on Demon's Choice always. If you go over here, then in your advanced settings, there's also all this skill level stuff. You see that, Jackie? And again, I don't recommend that you do any of that. I recommend that you just keep it on drill. The Demon is, you know, it's a form of artificial intelligence, that is going to feed you one question at a time that is at your appropriate level of difficulty.
Okay.
All you have to do is just hit drill.
Okay.
And when you get too many of the questions right, the demon's going to give you harder questions. When you get too many of the questions wrong, or when solving those questions takes you too long, it's going to give you easier questions.
Okay.
But you don't need to be making those kinds of decisions. You're like burning calories mentally that you don't need to burn. You could burn those on the questions themselves. Let the demon tell you what question to do. Do your best on it. Pick an answer. When you're sure you're right, hit submit. The demon will then tell you whether you're right or wrong. Oops, I missed it. On blind, when you have blind review on, it's not going to tell you what the right answer is. It's just going to give you a chance to do it again. But eventually you're going to want to see what the answer is, and you're going to look for the explanations. So for this question, we have, whoops, I need to hit continue, huh? Oh, wait, what did I do wrong? I did something wrong there. Point is, let me see if I can get one. Okay, here we go. So we got, why is that, Abigail, Haley, why am I not seeing the explanation here when I click that?
You merge the explanations into the question type, and you can unmerge by hitting the ellipses on the top right-hand corner.
The ellipses, unmerge, okay. Yeah, we're gonna have to talk about that feature. I don't know. I don't
Thanks, Gary. Yeah, that feature was just released today. So
okay, it's confusing. All right. Anyway, that normally doesn't default to that. That's I had hit merge explanations and I didn't know what it was. So here is a written explanation. Here's a video explanation. Here's another video explanation. And then always we have this ask button up here in the upper right. So if you're stuck, you're still stuck, you can always hit ask. That goes to a whole team of tutors where you can write out your own question there, hit submit, and then Abigail and our whole team of tutors will respond right back to you with an email response within 24 hours. So there's lots of ways that you can get help in the Demon. But again, none of that, I don't think, Jackie, involves managing the types of questions that the LSAT Demon is going to give you. I would just let the AI do its job.
Okay.
Cool. Jessica.
Thank you.
Yeah, I just had a question. I saw on Thursday you're having like the 1 hour LSAT class, and
yeah.
With that, like, I don't want to waste everybody's time tonight, but I saw like there's like a model schedule that LSAT Demon suggests as far as like studying, drilling, and going through like each of the sections and reviewing them throughout each week. How do you recommend for someone that would be taking the August LSAT, like what things do you recommend like enhancing your studying with or adding in addition to that to make sure that you're on like an aggressive enough pace to take that exam?
Yeah, well, I think that's a question that you should probably come and ask on Thursday. There's a registration link there, by the way, in the chat. I hope everybody will come join. 1 hour LSAT is, the purpose of it is to take that blog post that I wrote, which was called 1 hour LSAT. It's a lesson that lives in the Demon. And the idea there is, hey, you're not sure what to do this. And then tweak it from there. So if you have a little bit more time, there's extra stuff that you can add. I think that the blog post by itself is pretty self-explanatory, but you know, in general, do more of the stuff that you're bad at. Like no shit, sort of, right? But like,
yeah. I just, as far as like, I know I have friends who've taken like a lot of other different like LSAT prep courses and stuff, and they, you know, they take like sit down 2 or 3 practice exams every single week. Like, is there like a goal that you should be hitting, like sit down and taking an exam like every week, every other week? Like, how do you kind of measure your progress other than just by, you know, putting in the hours?
I don't care what other prep programs do. I mean, we are extremely successful helping people kill this test. And we have an exit survey. When people leave the Demon, we have an exit survey that people fill out, and it's like the most common reason why they say they left the LSAT or they left the LSAT Demon is because they crushed the LSAT. It's like, oh yeah, I'm unsubscribing because scoreboard. I killed this thing. I'm done. So like, sure, there are other prep programs that require like lots more work. I believe that you can be civilized about it. You can chip away at it 1 hour a day and you can be making forward progress. Yeah, a full practice test takes more than an hour. And yeah, you should do a full practice test every once in a while. No more than one a week though, unless you're already scoring like, so, look at the top of the scale, right? If you're like really killing it, like you're scoring 175 on your practice tests. If you're scoring 175 on your practice tests, that means you're only missing a couple questions. Okay. So you do a full practice test that takes you an hour and 45 minutes, 3 times 35 minutes, takes you an hour and 45 minutes. And now you've got 2 or 3 questions that you've missed that you need to review. Okay. So that takes you another half hour probably. And so for you at 175, doing a full practice test really only takes you couple hours, 2.5 hours, something like that. And so for those folks, maybe you can do a couple tests a week. But at the lower levels, I mean, if you're scoring 155, there's a lot on every test that you're not understanding. I mean, you're getting questions right for the wrong reason. You're straight up missing lots of questions. You're not finishing the sections probably. So when you do a full test, it's going to be tiring because it's hard to be bad at things. And when you get good at the test, it'll no longer be tiring, by the way. You'll realize that it's a fun, easy game and it will not be stressful. It will not be taxing. It'll be easy and fun. But at the lower levels, it's going to be some work and some stress. And, you might not want to review right away because you're going to be tired. Well, okay, but you do have these like 20 questions that you struggled with that you need to review. And that's going to take you like maybe as long as it took you to do the test to begin with. So now you're looking at an hour and 45 minutes to do the test, plus another hour, 2 hours to do your review. And that could be a full day of study. And I suppose if that's all you're doing, and if you're doing 2 hours a day, you could do a test one day, review the next, test the next day, review the next. But what we see when people do too many practice tests is that they fail to do the review part. And that's tragic because now all you're really doing is pulling the lever on the slot machine, refreshing endlessly to try to get a new result. And you're not actually learning anything, which is why in that 1 hour blog post, 1 hour LSAT blog post, and in the class that I'll teach on Thursday, I'm seriously de-emphasizing full-length practice tests. I would rather you drill, so 1 question at a time, and immediately review that question, or do timed sections, which is a 35-minute section, longer if you're accommodated, but a timed section, and then review. But you got to do the review part. And I think you can break it down into bite-sized chunks and do a little bit every day. I know for sure that by the time you're on your 3rd, 4th, 5th hour of LSAT prep in any given day, you're just not getting as much out of it at that point. And what I really want you to do is to give me that one high quality hour. It's the first hour. That's the hour that really matters. Think about going to the gym or something. If you go to the gym for an hour and give it your all, that's a pretty good, that's going to probably get it done. I don't know that you need to do a 4-hour workout, right? You can go hard for an hour. That's probably a day. And I look at the LSAT kind of the same way. Like, give it your full attention for a good high quality hour, then go do work, school, family, friends, do your life, sleep, nutrition, exercise, all that other stuff is really important. And when you're doing too many full-length tests, I don't know. I don't think that that's the most efficient use of your time. Thank you, Jessica. Laura, you've had a hand up for a while.
Hi. Yeah, I had a question. I've been having a lot of trouble with logical reasoning specifically. I've been studying for the LSAT for a while now, and I've been with the Demon for about 2 months now.
Okay.
And I wasted a lot of money before in a different company,
Sure.
not a very known company. Anyway, so I feel like I'm trying to unlearn what I learned before. so I can understand the Demon style of teaching, which totally makes sense. Like in everyday life, I am doing what the reasoning part of the LSAT
Perfect.
of like
Love
the
the sound of
argument and
that.
things.
Yeah.
So I naturally do that every day.
Good.
But when it comes to the LSAT, the reasoning section, it's hard for me. And the other thing that I'm having issues is that whenever I'm drilling or having a time section, like I drill and then I do a time section, I do worse than when I, like, for example, I pick up my phone and start like drilling or like do some questions. And I do better when I'm like just not worried or overthinking it than when I'm sitting down and concentrated.
Yeah.
I don't know, it's like, what's my issue, but it's been a while since I've been studying, like on and off for about 2 years because of work, COVID, all these things. So I'm on and off and trying to unlearn what I learned from like the Bible, and it's been a horrible experience. But I just want to get your honest thought, because I have the drive for it. It's not like I'm a paralegal currently. I was an interpreter at the court before, so I've been exposed enough to know what I want, and I'm up for a challenge, and I don't like to back down or take no as an answer. But yeah, go ahead. I just want your honest opinion about that, if I should just back down at this point.
Well, wait, what? Your question is, you're doing worse on your timed sections and you don't understand why?
Yeah, and it's just been for a while, so I don't know what else to approach it as. So
could just be small sample, could be not even an actual thing. You think it's a trend, but you're basing that on too small of data. You just said it's only been happening for a short while, so I don't know that it's real. The short run is longer than you guys tend to think, and you guys, it's natural, but you guys make all these inferences based on really not enough data. So I have to say, maybe it's not even actually happening. It's an illusion. If it is actually happening, then you're doing something differently on your time sections than you're doing when you're drilling. And it's almost guaranteed that when you have a timed section in front of you, you are managing your time, and you just shouldn't be. You shouldn't be managing your time in any way. So I don't want you to try to finish the sections. Most people shouldn't finish the sections. I know that like half of the class was wanting to talk about timing earlier. You'll never hear us at LSAT Demon talk about strategies for finishing the section, or timelines for when will I be able to finish the sections. I don't know, maybe never. I know for sure that you can score in the high 170s without finishing the sections. And until you're in the high 170s, you shouldn't be thinking about it at all. Even then, why would you think about it at all? So you should not be trying to finish. If you're trying to finish, then you're going to start making some silly mistakes, and you're going to start misreading some stuff, and you're going to struggle. So you're either going to make casual mistakes and miss questions, or you're going to misread stuff and then not be able to answer the questions. You're going to feel really uncomfortable. And then because you're trying to go fast, you're going to end up going slow. So those are errors that people make when they go too fast. Flip side of that, sometimes when people do practice sections or practice tests, especially, they like slow down ridiculously compared to what they're doing when they're drilling. So now what they're doing is they're like reading A, which, 80% of the time A is wrong, right? So when you read A, you should be like expecting it to be wrong. You should be looking at A going like, this is probably not the answer. Let me find a reason why it's wrong, and then I'll dismiss it. And instead, what people do is they start really trying to make a case like, well, but what if it is A? I have to make sure that, like it could be A. And then they spend like 20 minutes trying to figure out what the best case is for A, when again, A is wrong 80% of the time. And they do the same for B, and the same for C, and the same for D. And they triple check wrong answers, and they take forever. And that's another way that you can fail when you do timed sections. So ultimately, you need to practice one question at a time, and you need to just get into a kind of a rhythm. You'll find the rhythm that's right for you. where you're going to take plenty of time on the question itself. So plenty of time on logical reasoning, plenty of time on the argument, figure out what's good and what's bad about it. Plenty of time on the question. What are they asking me? Am I supposed to be strengthening? Am I supposed to be weakening? Are they just asking me to identify the conclusion of the argument? What are we doing here? What are they asking me? Then try to predict an answer. You can predict the answer to half or maybe 3/4 of the logical reasoning questions. You can come really close to predicting the answer. Then when you go into the wrong answers, you need to expect that they are wrong. A is wrong 80% of the time. So is B, so is C, so is D, so is E. And you need to be expecting each one to be wrong and dismissing it as soon as it feels wrong. Then the one right answer is the one where you're like, well, how's this wrong? Like, how do I not pick this? It's obviously correct. It matches my prediction. It makes perfect sense. I can vouch for every word in this answer. These other answers suck. This is the correct answer. And then you confidently pick it and move on to the next question instead of like double, triple checking all of those other wrong answers. But eventually that's the rhythm that you have to settle into if you're going to, be as successful as you can possibly be on the logical reasoning. Hopefully that's helpful, Laura. Let me get to some of these other questions. Omar.
Yeah, hey, this might be a silly question, but how do you know that you're reviewing effectively? Like the way I review is, okay, I'll read it. I'm like, okay, I messed up. Then I'll watch your video. Then I'll read a written explanation. But should I redo my wrong questions like later on, or like maybe give myself a week or two?
Nope. I don't believe in keeping a wrong answer journal. I don't believe in taking notes. I don't believe in returning to that question and doing it again later. What I care about, Omar, is there's actually 6 questions that I would ask you for every mistake you've made, okay? 6 questions. Why is the right answer right? Why didn't you pick it? How are you going to avoid making that mistake next time? It answers the question. You didn't pick it. Why? How are you going to avoid that next time? Why is the wrong answer wrong? It's objectively wrong. Okay, it doesn't answer the question, or frequently it's like exactly opposite. Like it's just wrong. It's frequently, many times wrong for multiple reasons. We have a class now in LSAT Demon Live called Wrong Answer Wreckers. And that Wrong Answer Wreckers class, they take all the time in the world to see all the various reasons why wrong answers are wrong. Many times it's wrong for 2 or 3 reasons. Lots of times it's one of these so-called Escher answers where it doesn't even make sense. Like just independently by itself, it doesn't, like it literally doesn't mean anything at all. That could be why it's wrong. But why is the wrong answer wrong? Why did you pick it? And how are you going to avoid that mistake next time? Now, that's 6 questions, Omar. Think about, like, could you answer it to my satisfaction? If I was there having a conversation with you about it, could you explain to me, why is the right answer right? Why didn't you pick it? How are you going to avoid that next time? Why is the wrong answer wrong? Why did you pick it? How are you going to avoid that mistake next time? And if you're sure that you could confidently explain it to me, that's how you know that you've thoroughly reviewed that question. And at that point, I don't care if you ever look at that question ever again. I don't think there's really much to be gained. There's 5,000 other logical reasoning questions that you could work on. So learn as much as you can, get maximum value out of that one question. See if you can answer those 6 questions, because the LSAT's easy. The LSAT makes perfect sense. The right answer answers the question. The wrong answers do not. The wrong answers are wrong for concrete reasons. It's never just, that's a better fit, or, well, it was one of those. I knew it was B or D, and it's just B is like better. B is slightly better. Bullshit. You don't understand. Why is that the right answer? It is the one right answer. It actually answers the question. Why is the other answer objectively wrong? It's not almost the answer. It's wrong. Why is it wrong? And you should be able to explain it pretty plainly, like common sense terms. Watch videos, you're doing that. Read the written explanations, you're doing that. Use the ask button if you're not sure, then move on to the next question. Most people don't review questions thoroughly enough. A lot of times people will take notes or put it into a list wrong answer journal. Oh, I'll come back to that one. Why not understand it right now? Let's do the work now. Like, we're already working on this question. It's more efficient to get to full understanding now. And if you can just do that, I mean, like, really, your mission, and all my classes operate this way. I recommend that all of your self-study, you do it this way. You just do one question at a time and get to the point where you really, really understand it. You should feel good about it. And if you can get to that point, then great, good, move on. 9,999 other LSAT questions to do that exact same process on. Thank you, Omar. Abe.
Hi, Nathan. Thank you for taking time to answer my question. I'm new to the Demon. I just started like 6 days ago on the free account.
Cool.
And I've been using the, not the drill feature in particular, I've been using the feature that's under your ratings. That might be considered drilling as well. But I wanted to ask, should I be using the Demon's 1 through 5 difficulty scale as a measure of my progress? Like, once I reach 50 points on it, like, should I use that as a measure of progress in addition to like full practice tests and time sections?
You're talking about these numbers right here, Abe?
Yes.
Yeah. You might be able to use those to like relatively compare your strengths and weaknesses. You know, like here, obviously the Demon is telling me that I'm better at arguments than I am at reading, probably because I've barely done any. I mean, obviously I don't like use the Demon myself for practice. In my classes, I do a lot of logical reasoning, and I've gotten a lot of questions right with the class together in logical reasoning. So my rating has gone up. But the only way that I'm going to really know how good I am at these various areas is to do timed sections. I mean, you need to be going into practice, you need to be going into timed sections. And then, yeah, again, just like I would recommend that you just leave it all on Demon's choice, you know, because on the day of the test, the LSAT is going to tell you what to do. You don't know what's coming first. You don't know whether it's going to be games, LR, or RC. So you can just go in here, timed section, Demon's choice, 35 minutes. If you're an accommodated student, you can change it. But if you're a regular 35-minute student, you just hit continue. And the Demon will just say, okay, let's get it on. Here's a section. And that's what's going to happen on the actual exam. And I think it's those 35-minute timed sections that are going to really tell you clearly how good you are.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thanks, Abe. Halim.
Yeah, so I was wondering, when you say that the wrong answers are always 100% wrong, like for like the most supported type question,
yeah,
where maybe are some of the answers just like less right, or is every question the wrong answers, there's something about it that makes it completely wrong?
Yeah, I understand what you're saying. So there are, this is like a kind of a higher level question. Thank you, Halim. This is kind of a higher level issue, but you know, there are questions that are strictly must be true questions. And then there are questions that are, which one of the following is most strongly supported by the information above? And when they soften the language a little bit, then I guess it's theoretically possible that the correct answer is not 100% proven by the given evidence. And it's possible that the wrong answers are kind of supported by the evidence, but almost always the correct answer is just proven by the facts. And almost always the wrong answers are just speculative. It's really not a test of second best. Okay. I mean, there are just clear reasons why the right answer, it's never slightly better. Let me put it that way. Okay. And I mean, it's never like 40% better. It's like 90% better. right? It's really, really better. The right answer is really, really right. The vast majority of the wrong answers, even on a supported question, or, you know, sometimes like on a real hard strengthened question, there might be an answer that could conceivably strengthen the argument, and then there's one that strengthens the argument a lot. It's never close. Or there might be, the hardest ones I think are ones where there's like 5 bad answers. But even when there's 5 bad answers, it'll be like 3 of them weaken, 1 of them is totally irrelevant, and then 1 of them strengthens a little bit. Well, okay, you're not going to pick the ones that weaken. You're not going to pick the one that's irrelevant. The right answer is the one that strengthens the argument. That's what they asked you to do. So, boy, there might be one question on the test that's there to differentiate between the 179s and the 180s, where it's close. But you can get to 179 without getting that one right. And so I really wouldn't, I think we can paint with a pretty broad brush here and just say the right answers are actually right and the wrong answers are just actually wrong. It's really not a comparison, weighing and balancing, and well, on the whole, you know, the preponderance of the evidence is for this answer. Now, it's not like this, it's like this. And the one right answer is clearly right, wrong answers are clearly wrong.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Hopefully that sorts you out a little bit. What else are we supposed to talk about, y'all? I know I have all these questions here on the agenda. What do you guys think the LSAT tests? Why do you think they test those things? Sarah.
It tests our ability to think like a lawyer will have to think. It's not to make us feel stupid. It's not to make us do anything. It's to teach us so our professors don't have to be like, hey, this is how you have to look at it.
Yep.
I respect it.
I went to a middling law school. I went to UC Hastings. It's currently ranked 51st in the country. You know, it's a regional law school. It's okay. There's nothing super prestigious about UC Hastings. It's a okay school. And there were people there in my 1L year who were like making arguments that were confusing sufficient for necessary. There were people there that were confusing correlation and causation. There were legal opinions that we read that were confusing sufficient for necessary. They are testing your ability to read carefully. They're testing your English, because in the United States, you're gonna be a lawyer practicing in English. You're going to be a knight of the English language. So the LSAT is testing your English, testing your patience, testing your ability to read carefully and actually understand like a lawyer, testing your logic, but it ain't any kind of highfalutin logic. You don't need any formal logic classes. You know, confusing sufficient and necessary is on every single test multiple times. And confusing sufficient for necessary is like, you know, it's like a kid could do it. Okay. Like if you see a bear on your deck 8 feet away from you, which just happened to me earlier today, right here. Okay. I walked outside the sliding glass door and there was a fucking bear on my door, on my deck. There was an actual bear right there. And I like shit my pants basically. Okay. So here's the rule. If you see a bear on your deck, you're going to shit your pants. All right. Does that mean that if you shit your pants, you had to see a bear on your deck? No, because there's a million other reasons why you could shit your pants. I mean, there's like just a million other things that could scare you. So yeah, the bear is pretty scary, but there's other things that can also be scary. And like that logical error is on literally every test. So all they're testing is your ability to like read carefully and call bullshit on very common sense grounds, just real simple, real obvious, common sense logic. So they're testing your English, they're testing your logic. And then the last thing that I think they're testing, which is one of the most lawyerly things of all is they're testing how hard you can work. 400 of these logic games that are available for you to practice. You can tell me how much you want it all day. And it really carries no weight. I mean, I've been doing this for a long time. I've heard a lot of people tell me how dedicated they are. I don't care. Show me how dedicated you are. All those tests are available for practice. Your competitors are doing them. If you want it, you're going to stop complaining about not being good at logic games. You're going to get good at logic games by chipping away at it. 1 of them a day for a year, 4 of them a day for 3 or 4 months. You're going to chip away. And if you start chipping away, you're going to get vastly better at the test. It's real obvious in the games, but it's true across the board. Logical reasoning and reading comp, both of them are susceptible to just practice. They're testing your English, they're testing your logic, they're testing how hard you can work. And if you're not good at those 3 things, then you're not going to be good at law school in the United States. And so they're testing very lawyerly things. It makes perfect sense. And to that end, it really is easy. Now, a career in law is not easy. This is not the gravy train. This is not where you should be if you just want to get rich. This is like, you're here because you want work to be the primary focus of your life. You're a serious person. You're going to be an attorney. You are a serious, hard worker. You take things seriously. You read carefully. You understand what you're doing. You don't just pop off. You don't make shit up. You read carefully and you work really, really hard. And if that describes you, then you will find the LSAT to be easy. But easy and also require you to work at it every day for the rest of your life. That's what you're getting yourself into if you're getting yourself into law. Roberto, I'll let you have the last question.
All right. Big fan, by the way. I've been new LSAT Demoner here.
Welcome.
Been watching you and what's his other name? I'm sorry, really bad with names.
Ben Olson.
The very same. Yeah, I've been watching you guys. I'm a former 7 stager. I've had a bit of experience with the LSAT already. It just kind of, I heard about your drilling and I've been trying it for about 2 weeks and actually increased like 3 points. It was actually like a little morale boost. And for the first time, yeah, I love it. It really holds me accountable to the low hanging fruit. And that's something that I've been lacking. And then if you lack on that, then how can you get the high hanging fruit, but the other day I actually got, for the first time ever while practicing, I got 15 LR questions in a row, the first 15. Cool. And like, I was just like, holy, like, I didn't expect that. I'm like, all right, I'd expect a few more there. Like, is that the way to go? Because I didn't finish the section, but I got the first 15 right. I was like, holy crap, like, that's awesome. That's something I've never done. Yep. The drilling didn't allow me to miss any 3-star level questions, which is, if I keep going with it, am I on the right track is my question, basically.
Yes. So, and that's a perfect question to end on. I think that you guys need to train yourself to run the table at the beginning of each section. When you start a section on your official test, you need to plan on getting the first one right, and then the second one, and then the third one. And you need to go 10 for 10 on the first 10. And if you can't do that, then, you probably can't score 170. Like, you're not going to. Like, you don't score 170 by missing questions. You just don't score 170 by missing questions, period. But if you are going to miss questions, you would prefer to run out of time and miss the hardest ones at the very end of the section. You don't want to miss questions by making stupid mistakes on the easy ones at the beginning of the section. You want to miss questions by running out of time on the hardest ones at the very end of the section. You want to be like Carl, who's now at Yale, who is one of our LSAT Demon teachers. He's coming back this summer. I'm super excited that we're going to have Carl back teaching classes. He's been tutoring for us, but he's going to teach classes now in his summer between his 1L and 2L years at Yale Law School. Carl didn't finish his reading comprehension section on his official LSAT. He scored 179 on the official LSAT without finishing his reading comprehension. You know what he did? He was calm, careful, accurate. He ran the table at the beginning of each section and just got paid. And if you do that, you can score really, really high just from accuracy. So no matter if your goal is 150, 160, 170, you need to be taking it in bites, right? So a little bit every day, but you can't get to 150 without getting the first 5 on every section. You can't get to 160 without getting the first 10 on every section. You can't get to 170 without getting the first 15 on every section. So start with the easy stuff first, then eventually you can get some of that higher hanging fruit. I have to leave you right now because I have my full 2-hour class that starts right now for LSAT Demon Live subscribers. Hope to see some of you there. I've got another free class coming up on Thursday. I'll see some of you at that class. Haley's going to hang around and answer whatever remaining questions about the Demon or about LSAT prep you have. So you're in good hands with Haley. Thank you, Haley. And I will see y'all sometime soon. Thanks. Have a good night.
All right, if you guys didn't see it in the chat, we have the other free class on Thursday with Nathan, and then on Saturday we have one with Rachel Gezersay. She's a real life lawyer, and she's going to talk about how to get a law job you love and talk about starting networking now before you even start law school, so you can set yourself up for good externships and internships and then like a job straight out of getting your JD. So make sure to check both those out as well. Like I said, those will be free. And then the Thursday class is kind of just like this class where it's guided just by questions. So if you didn't get your question answered, you can come there as well, or email help@lsatdemon.com and we'll get to you as fast as we can. Usually within a few hours, we respond there as well.
I have a question.
Yeah.
So when you sign up for like the paid version of the Demon, it says on the bottom like you need a LSAC premium account or something. Like I'm just kind of curious what that is.
Yeah, that's called Prep Plus. They started charging it like 2 or 3 years ago, which is a little ridiculous, just add on the fees, LSAC. They require, it's $99 and it lasts for 1 whole year. So if you use it for a year and you're still studying, you'll have to purchase it again. And they require that for any LSAT prep companies that offer official LSAC license materials. And we only do official LSAC license materials, so we have to require that. And it does travel with you. So if you move to another LSAT prep company, or if like you wanted to use Law Hub and us, it travels with you. So you don't have to purchase it again with each company. One time lasts, you could have 7 prep companies at the same time and it would stay with you. And then if you apply for the LSAC fee waiver, usually that's included for free. So even if you don't think you'll qualify, try to apply for the LSAC fee waiver. You can even contest it and be like if you get denied, be like, oh, look, but here's my rent, here's my truck payment, here's whatever. And sometimes they'll approve it, and then that Prep Plus would be covered for you, which is nice. And they usually respond to fee waivers within 1 to 2 days if it's a weekday.
Okay, and that's just $99 for the whole year, not anything.
Yeah, not monthly. So yeah, you can purchase it through us right when you're checking out, or you can purchase it directly through LSAC if you feel better about that. But either way, the money goes straight to LSAC. We don't get it. We just make it easier for you to purchase it all in one.
Okay, thanks.
So right, guys, and they just raised the cost of the official test. Did you guys see that? It's $215.
Yeah, I saw that.
I saw that email and I was like, this is horrible.
Well, hopefully I'll only have to write it once.
Yes, I took it 3 times, so definitely glad I got that out before I got right. I mean, it's not like crazy, but that's still, it's only $15.
Yeah.
Well, awesome. Any other questions?
Why do they? Sorry, why are the LSAT tests so far apart?
Like the official tests?
Yeah, so I am going to take the one in June, and then I'm also going to sign up for the one in August. But I have to do it before I know my score in June, which is awful. But they're just so far apart, I have to do it that way.
Yeah, that's the biggest gap of the year. Usually they're pretty back to back. Like this year we had January, February, March, April, and then June, and then you kind of have a gap. Then you have August, September, October, November, and then they have another gap from November to January. So there's 2 times a year where there's like a 2-month gap. So usually they're pretty back to back, but that's the big one. And I was in your same boat. I had to sign up for August last year without knowing my June score, and then I got a really good June score, and then I kind of like gave up studying, so I got a lower score on my August test.
Yeah, don't put yourself through that. I get it.
Don't do that. But yeah, it's a little ridiculous that there's that gap, but they have that gap because the cycle restarts in August. So it's August to August for the 3 tests you can take per cycle. So that part's nice, because if you take June, that's included in this cycle, and August is included in next cycle. So you're not going to be running into that 3 tests per cycle issue.
Okay.
Cool.
So my question is for the LSAT get asked to keep record of all informal testing accommodations. And if I'm interested in using the accommodations for my LSAT testing, would I be able to, will LSAT Demon allow me to use my request for like times on my practice sections as an informal record?
I think they're more asking for like your school record showing that you've had extended time in the past is what they're looking for. You could try to show that that's what you've been using. Honestly, I had accommodations. I had time and a half for ADHD, and all I needed was a doctor's note. I didn't have any previous, I didn't get diagnosed until I was an adult, so I didn't have any previous records from school, and the doctor's note was enough for them to be like, okay, she's good. I didn't even have to prove my medication history or anything, even though I had it. So they're pretty laid back about approving them.
So, okay, then that's great. I was going to go ahead and get everything filled out, but I guess that's all I need. I already have that.
Yeah, honestly, they're after they ended up having a lawsuit a few years ago about accommodations, and ever since then, they're pretty lenient about giving it what you want within reason. So
thank you.
I have a question. If you take the June one, the one that's coming up, do you is that the beginning of the cycle or the end of the cycle? Like, or do you get 3 more tries after June, or you only get 2?
the end. So you would get 3 more tries after June if you wanted to next cycle starting in August.
Oh, all right. That's great news.
Yeah.
Thank you.
No problem. And I like that they have a September one this year, even though we recommend applying literally the first week of September. Like I applied September 10th. Your LSAT score should be released by the end of September, which I think is close enough that like if you really needed it, or if some kind of Proctor U issue happened in August, you could still take September and not stress about it the same way everyone had to last year. So that's kind of nice too. They do not report if you had accommodations. It's against the law to report that. So it stays hidden. It looks like as if you took the test like anybody else. The only reason law schools would know is if you release that information to them. And if you listen to our podcast, we recommend you don't. When you go through your law school applications, they'll actually ask you questions like about your disabilities and stuff, but they're not required to answer because that's against the law. We recommend not writing about them in your personal statement or anything like that, because we want law schools, you know, even though they can't legally not admit you for that reason, if they think that you're going to be a problem child because of accommodations, even though so many of us have mental health issues in this day and age, you know, they could come up with another reason to deny your application, even if they said it wasn't for your accommodation reason. So LSAC won't tell them that you had accommodations, and don't tell schools unless you absolutely have to, or don't tell them until you're already admitted, have paid your seat deposit, and then start reaching out for accommodations during law school. Philip.
Yeah, I was wondering about requesting time and a half or double time. I'm also an adult, so just recently diagnosed. Do you have any recommendations on that? Should I go for a double and see what they give me? Or in the second part is, did you study that way? Because I know they say you should study how you're going to test if you receive it. But a part of me wants to just study regular and get a time and a half.
I studied with my accommodations. I thought that was easier, especially for logic games, because that's where I got most sidetracked for me. It definitely depends on what your disability is. For me with ADHD, I wanted only time and a half because I knew that like double time would be too distracting for someone with ADHD, but the less time was not enough. But if you have another like test anxiety, or I know people have different disabilities that they need different accommodations with, if you feel like you need that double, or you feel like you won't get distracted with that double, you can always request the double. And if they deny it, they'll just give you time and a half usually anyways. You don't have to like resubmit for time and a half. So, but I would test with your accommodations.
All right, thank you.
Hey, Austin.
Hey, so thank you, Haley. This is actually my first ever Demon class, brand new to the Demon. So I'm actually coming from a different test prep company, Blueprint. And yeah, I've had, I would say some moderate success. I actually started cold diagnostic in the low 30s. I think I'm in like the 160s now. But ultimately, I know that, the schools that I'm looking at, I need a 170 plus. And I noticed that with, Blueprint or other material I look at, it kind of goes back to like this weird, I always joke that it's black magic of how you have to figure out a question, an answer to a question. And I like how the demon's a little bit more straightforward. As I'm making the transition though, because I look to eventually cancel my Blueprint subscription and exclusively use the demon, is there any advice that you have for like making that transition? Should I just kind of forget all of the skills that I've learned to this point? Happy to hear your thoughts.
Yeah, I came from Kaplan to the demon, so I was kind of in that same boat. I had to like detox myself, literally like rewrite my brain. For me, I feel like mine happened right at Christmas break, so I took 2 weeks off before I started back up with the demon. If you feel like you need to take a little break, that might help as well. But the demon just builds off of the natural way you already take the test. So even if you have a few tips that you've liked from Blueprint, it's just going to build off that way you're already naturally going to take the test. But the main thing I would say forget no matter what, if they taught you it at Blueprint, is the negating. If they taught you how to negate all the necessary assumptions, that one wipe out completely. That's going to confuse you more. If they taught you diagramming and logical reasoning, don't do it. Those are the two that I would wipe out of your brain completely.
That is the best news I've heard all day. Because those are the parts that I absolutely hate the most, are negating, diagramming, logical reasoning, and all of that. So
it literally is horrible and it takes way too much time. I hated it. We have a whole blog post about negating assumption negation. Like, get rid of it. You guys, it's pretty good. Yeah, we don't do that crap because it's garbage and it takes double the amount of time.
Yeah. Thank you, Haley.
Yeah. All right, I can take a few more really quick, and then I'm subbing for Bunko, so I got to head out.
I just wanted to share real quick that I had a similar experience with PowerScore, except with their PowerScore logical reasoning Bibles, and they separate it by question type. So in my head, I'm looking at every single question, and I'm just like juggling so many things at once in my head. Like, oh, this is a strengthening question. I have to look for this and this and this and this and this, and then I have to like all these different like mental hoops I have to jump through, and then I still get the question wrong because I'm not really understanding what I'm reading. And I've had a completely different experience with the demon once I just sort of focused on what I was reading, understood it in plain terms, understand what the question is asking, and understood the answers in plain terms. And that so far has been showing me like much better results, even just in the drills. Like I'm at level 3 difficulty questions right now, and I've been doing it for 6 days. And to me, I feel like I would have never gotten to this point just following PowerScore.
Yeah, it really is. It was life-changing to me. I didn't start working for the demon until after I'd already taken my official test and actually applied to law schools. But the second I heard they were hiring, I jumped on it just because I literally can never stop talking about the demon. If you guys had seen me before, I was all over Reddit, all over Facebook, saying exactly what you're just saying, A, because I literally sound like a freaking hype girl talking about the demon. But I mean, who would have thought just reading the passage, that's all it takes, like reading it in plain English. And I just feel like that will also help us more in law school, right? Because we're not going to be negating and diagramming what we're reading. We're going to be outlining it, but we're just going to be reading the argument and then just picking it apart, which is exactly what we're doing right now. So it doesn't make sense to me why we would do all these gimmicks and tips and tricks, because that's not what you're going to do in law school. That's not how a lawyer thinks. They think about picking apart the argument, which is what the demon teaches. So anyways, hopefully this works out better for you guys. It sucks to come from another company because you really do feel like you're detoxing, but I loved the experience with the demon. I was able to switch pretty fast. And I personally went from a 143 to a 165 within 4 months. So that was my jump. And I'm headed on a full ride to a T30 school. So keep shooting, go higher than a 165. But you can definitely come from one of the other companies and detox yourself enough to launch yourself to where you need to be. Anyone else last minute questions? If you guys think of anything else, you can put me email in the chat, Haley@LSATdemon.com. You can email me, I can help you out, or I run the help email with my coworker Jen as well. I can catch you there. You can text our phone number, you can call us too, but you can text us if you have any other questions. And hopefully we see you guys on Thursday at that free class, and then Saturday as well to learn about networking with Rachel. If you guys can make it, it will also be recorded. We post all the recordings within 24 hours of the class. So if you miss it, just go watch the recording.
Thanks a lot.
Yeah, good to meet all you guys, and hopefully we'll see you soon. Have a good rest of your Tuesday.
Thank you. You too.